Hello and welcome back to America's Forum here on Newsmax TV. I'm John Bachman, back with us for another round here on the program. Retired Army Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. Alan, it's great to have you with us. Guys, we'll get to talk about this in a second. We also want to bring in former Intelligence Committee Chairman Pete Hoekstra joining us for this conversation, and we want to talk real quickly about these ongoing reports between the Taliban and the United States and what it all means for Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl, who is an American POW. Bergdahl was captured reportedly more than 4 years ago in Afghanistan, is believed to be held in Pakistan. He is the only known U.S. prisoner of war. White House spokesman Jay Carney says the United States is using all of its military, intelligence, and diplomatic tools to seek a safe return of Sergeant Bergdahl, who currently is still being held captive.
He has been gone far too long, and we are very concerned about him, and our hearts go out to his family, and we have great sympathy for them. They've been going through quite an ordeal. We have long said that we support an Afghan-led process, reconciliation process with the Taliban, and we are not involved in any negotiations with the Taliban, active negotiations, but if negotiations were to resume, we would certainly want to discuss the fate of Sergeant Bergdahl.
Well, despite the claims of Carney, Bergdahl's family says they've been encouraged by recent reports of negotiations. But again, despite those White House claims, Bergdahl's fate remains in the balance after the Taliban said just this week that they were suspending talks on the captive U.S. soldier. The announcement was halted, at least temporarily. What was considered the best chance for the 27-year-old to come home since his capture 4 years ago. In a statement emailed to the Associated Press, a Taliban spokesman blamed the current political situation in Afghanistan for the suspension of the talks. Now, the case of Bergdahl has raised a lot of questions, and it's testing foreign policy protocol. Never negotiate with terrorists, or is it leave no soldier behind? It has also been reported that Bergdahl wasn't actually captured by the Taliban and that he may have simply walked off a military outpost. So, Colonel West, this is a tough situation here. Tell us what you know about the Bowe Bergdahl situation.
Well, there is no doubt, and having been in combat, I mean, personnel accountability is always your number one thing. And it does seem that Sergeant Bergdahl walked off his combat outpost. He left his weapon and all his gear on that combat outpost. It seems he took some water, a hunting knife, and a compass. There was an effort to try to retrieve him and to get him back, and that effort was not successful. So I think that the most important thing here is that, yes, we want to have Sergeant Bergdahl back. There's no doubt about it. We're not going to debate that. But we need to have the military, Department of Defense, and the Obama administration be very forthright and forthcoming with the American people, because we don't want to see some situation where, you know, we are being used, and the next thing you know, we're releasing 5 Taliban prisoners, and you know the recidivism rate, and they're going to ask for high-level prisoners. Even the Haqqani network may ask for individuals. We need to have the truth about this situation. I don't think it's been, you know, very forthcoming to this point.
The Haqqani network, another terror organization,
yes,
that is a real concern. Pete, it's good to have you with us. Good to have you back on the show.
Hey, great. Thank you.
All right, I wanted to ask you, what's your take on these possible talks, even though the White House is denying them, that the United States might be having or may have had with the Taliban?
Well, my expectation is they probably had some talks. They may have gone through some intermediary. But I think the bigger picture here is, you know, just within the last couple of weeks, Karzai released 65 prisoners, many of them probably Taliban. And I think Jay Carney's absolutely right. The U.S. government hasn't been involved in this process at all. You know, the condition for any prisoners being released, whether they are held by the U.S. or whether they are being held by the Afghans under the direction of President Karzai, there should be no prisoners released until the sergeant is returned to the U.S. And to have Karzai releasing prisoners just tells you that the relationship between the Afghan government and the U.S. government is totally in tatters, and it also follows a disturbing pattern. We've left the doctor behind in Pakistan. We've got an FBI agent and a pastor in Iran that were not part of the negotiations. You know, it's very, very frightening, and I'm not sure why anybody in the future would want to partner with the U.S., risk helping us when we're leaving them behind.
And Pete, you talked about the partnership between the United States and Afghanistan, guys, and right now it couldn't come at a more pivotal and crucial time here. We just heard these reports also of the president giving Hamid Karzai an earful on the phone yesterday and threatening this zero option, which in fact they would leave no forces behind, not a single troop behind in Afghanistan at the end of this year. Why should we be concerned about this so much?
Well, It's very simple. All you have to do is look at what happened in Iraq. And the fact that al-Qaeda is back, they're even stronger. James Clapper testified to that during a Senate intelligence hearing. The black al-Qaeda flag is flying all over western Anbar province. So what you're going to see, if the president, I guarantee you right now, people know what President Obama said to President Karzai. Tribal leaders, tribal elders, and others are already looking at how they can cut deals with the Taliban, because no one over there is going to want to wake up with their head in their lap. And that's just a short-sighted, strategic perspective to believe that you can make a threat like that and, all of a sudden you believe that you're going to get some type of reaction. They're going to cut the deals. And I think that's, as, Congressman Hoekstra talked about, Taliban being released by Karzai, that's a clear indicator that they don't have any trust and confidence in the United States of America.
Yeah, and Congressman Hoekstra, obviously Karzai is concerned about what happens after the United States leaves anyway. This move by the president may have been some sort of negotiating tool or some way to put pressure on Karzai to sign this sort of agreement. But given the fact that the relationship seems to be so broken at this point, is there any hope that there can be one of these status of forces agreements, or what? Don't know the exact.
The SOFA.
The SOFA agreement in Afghanistan. Is there any way this could happen? If it doesn't happen, what does it mean for the troops who are already on the ground in Afghanistan?
Well, I think it's unlikely that it's going to happen. I think that the region, the Pacs, the Pakistanis, the Afghans, they've all decided that the U.S. is not committed to the region for the long term. They're out now. Those governments are negotiating with the folks that we've been fighting. Those are the individuals that they have to deal with because they see the United States leaving. And so I think it's highly unlikely. And even if we got a status of forces agreement, I'm not sure what that status of forces agreement is worth. It's time to get our troops home because of the lack of leadership and the lack of commitment by this president to be successful in Afghanistan. He's working towards a deadline. He's not working towards success. Get our troops home. It's unfair to have them in that kind of a battlefield.
And Alan, it seems like to me that this is a waving of the white flag, basically, and that means mission over in Afghanistan.
It is absolutely waving the right flag, and I could not agree even greater with Congressman Hoekstra. If you don't have dedicated leadership coming from the quote-unquote commander-in-chief, you don't want to have your troops out there in harm's way.
All right, so we'll keep our eye on the situation with Bowe Bergdahl. Troubling to say the least, and even more troubling when you look at it in more broader terms of what it means for the last 10 years or 12 years that we've been in Afghanistan, or even longer than that. Colonel West, thanks for being with us. We'll have you back to talk about taxes in just a second. Congressman Hoekstra, always great to get your insight. The Skype camera's looking great. We'll have you back soon.
Hey, sounds good. Thanks. Good to be with you, Alan.
Thanks so much, Congressman.
All right, great to have you both with us. Of course, we want to hear from you. What do you think about this situation with Bowe Bergdahl? And does the president's announcement about a zero forces option in Afghanistan make you feel like the last 13 years in that country have been a total waste? We want to hear from you. Tweet me directly, JohnB_Newsmax, or any of us here at the program, Newsmax TV, #America's Forum. When we come right back, we'll have more with Alan West and David Patton. We'll talk about taxes, an issue heating up in Washington right now.